Hi, good evening. Welcome to the John Gaunt podcast. I've got a bit of deja vu. I've already done one show. If you haven't watched it, go and get it now. But if politicians listen to us, what today has proved is we wouldn't be in this mess. What a massive day for British politics. Starmer started talking about immigration this morning, migration, and the rest of it. And now it's all kicked off. Usual suspects have come out against his plans. His plans are nonsense. I'm not even going to go through them line by line. It's a complete and utter joke. But what it is illustrated to me today is that politicians only listen to us when there's an election. But do you know what? If they actually listened to us more, they wouldn't be in this mess, because the thing we've got that they clearly haven't got is common sense. They only care about our opinions when it's election time. The rest of the year, we're ignored, we're shut out, and we're talked down to because we're the plebs. But maybe, just maybe, if they actually listened to what ordinary people were saying, we wouldn't be facing half the problems we've got now. For example, let's take Brexit. Whether you agreed with it or not, for years, the political class, all parties, brushed it away, treated the public, me and you, like we didn't know what we were talking about. But we showed them, didn't we? We voted for it. We won, and they were forced to listen finally after about another 2 or 3 years after trying to reverse it. And of course, the main man trying to reverse it was Starmer. But now it's the same story with immigration. People aren't racist. We're just realistic. Most people see the system at the moment as being abused by illegal migration and illegal migrants, the so-called dinghy boys, as I call them, at Dover. But guess what? That's not prejudice. That is common sense. We can't let everybody in, and at last the politicians are understanding it. But they have for years plugged their ears and pretended that we were the problem. We're the problem, not the people who are breaking into our country. If you agree with me, get on and send me a comment. If you disagree, I want to hear from you as well. But what I'm trying to get over tonight is whether it's immigration, whether it's Brexit, whether it's Europe, basically the political class don't want to hear from us. They think we're morons. And I've had it up to here. And today's proved it, because if Starmer had actually tested those silly ideas he came out with this morning, ordinary people would have said, get off. That's never going to work. And it isn't. He's a joker. He didn't mention illegal migration. He didn't mention Dover. He didn't mention reform, although it was a reform-light rip-off speech. Does he think we're stupid? Does he think he can treat us like mushrooms, keep us in the dark and keep feeding us you-know-what? This, I believe, will be the day that we remember that Starmer finally did become toast. This is like Rishi Sunak when he left the D-Day commemorations early. This is the mistake. It's like Cameron offering us Brexit and saying he'd abide by the rules, then running away like the big snobby crybaby he is when he lost. I mean, just look at Starmer. He's drowning in the fallout. And don't forget, as I said, Sunak leaving the D-Day commemorations early to go to a party. Big mistake. He never really recovered. He completely misread the mood of the country, because people care about patriotism. They care about our forces, our heroes, our veterans. They care about respect. And Rishi Sunak blew it. And as I say, he never, ever recovered. And I believe that's what's happening now, in a way, with Starmer. Do you agree with me or disagree with me? Got a dirty mark there on my camera. Sorry, let me just move that. Do you agree or disagree with me? Get talking to me now on the comments, because today I'm talking about the disconnect between the political establishment, whether it's Tories or whether it's Labour. Have you seen them this afternoon debating the issue? They're straight back into tribalism. Oh, you did this, you didn't do that. Yeah, boo sucks. It's pathetic. Even while Starmer was doing his speech, dreadful speech this morning, the dinghies were still arriving. It was 400 people whilst he was doing his press conference. It's now gone over 600. And he didn't mention illegal migration. He's a complete and utter idiot. If you're enjoying what I'm talking about, press the like button, please. The like button. Rick Medlock says, afternoon, John. Afternoon, Rick. You got a comment to make? Brett Garside says, absolutely 100% correct. Thank you for your support, Brett. If you want to have a comment, we'll write it up on the right-hand side, or just below here, I think it is on your screen, and it will come up and I can read them out. I really want to have your views today. I think it's a joke. I think we're being taken for mugs, and I think it's been going on for years. But now I think it's time to stand up. They're not listening to us until they're desperate. Look at Starmer. He's absolutely drowning in the fallout of his stupid immigration speech this morning. He hasn't got a hope in hell of ever implementing that. And what about Starmer's cringy social media videos? They're all at it. Please. No one's buying it. You can dress it up with slick editing and slogans, but actions speak louder than words. And us voters, we're not stupid. He's put one up today of the White Cliffs of Dover, saying something like, I'm really protecting us. Last week, he was helping us out in Ukraine, supporting Ukraine. It's nonsense. They're pathetic. It's like the trendy vicar dancing at the school disco. No, don't do it. Stay away. Or being a parent and liking the bands that your kids like. It's a no-go area, Keir. Today, you've come over as a total fool and a buffoon, ably assisted, of course, by Yvette Cooper, who got into Yaboo Sucks politics this afternoon until Farage stood up. He's the winner in all this. So maybe if established politicians, tell me if you agree with this, actually asked us what we thought before slashing things like the winter fuel allowance, they wouldn't get themselves in this mess. I mean, you could have asked anyone down my boozer on a Friday night, do you think taking the winter fuel allowance off pensioners is a good idea? Now, you might have had a few people saying, well, actually, I don't really need it. In fact, I did have a mate who said, I don't need it, so I wouldn't mind. But the majority of people just go crazy because that 300 quid means a lot to them. It means nothing to a man who doesn't even buy his own suits. It means nothing to a cabinet who get freebies for Taylor Swift concerts. Going back to my point a minute ago, don't like the bands necessarily your kids like. And also it just makes you realise these people, they probably never had to choose between heat and meat. They probably never sat there with a hot water bottle on their lap. I remember sitting on a hot water bottle doing my A-level revision because my dad wouldn't turn the heating on. They've never been in that situation. They're just not like us. And of course, they take their advice from SPADs, special advisors. And this is all the parties. And these are young kids with a little bit of stubble straight out of university with no common sense. The decisions are made in back rooms by people who've never struggled, never worried about meat, never worried about heat, never worried about whether they can have that holiday in Salonika. I know I keep saying this, but it's true. And this is the problem. And you know what really gets me? The word populism. It's treated almost as if it's the see you next Tuesday word in the world of politics. But what is populism? Surely it's listening to the people and doing things that are popular with the majority, making laws for the majority rather than the minority, speaking in plain English, caring about what matters to normal working class families. Oh, on that subject, somebody sent me a tweet earlier saying he doesn't call people working class because he doesn't know what working class is. But going back to my point, if all those things are populist, then maybe we need a bit more of it. Then maybe we wouldn't have the fiasco at Dover. And then the so-called special advisors that I've just mentioned, half of them look like they've just finished university. They've only just started to shave. What do they know about life at the age of 24, 25, 26? Special advisors should be 40, 45, 50, maybe divorced. I don't know. Just lived a bit. How do they know about scraping by, juggling bills, and the real world pressure? They live in the same bubble as the politicians. Real life doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in Whitehall offices or in their think tanks. Real life is what you get up to, how you live your life. Do you see where I'm coming from in this podcast? I really want you to contribute to it as well. Tell me what you think, because I think today we've just seen politics personified. Everything that is wrong with modern politics happened today. I'm not going into the detail of this speech. If you want to bore yourself to death, you can later. I did make a podcast earlier about it if you want to look at that, and it's going gangbusters. Let me tell you, loads of people are downloading it. But the basic problem with what Keir Starmer's saying today is he doesn't believe a bloody word of it. Now, I know you're going to say, Gaunty, they never believe what they're saying. No, but this is a prime example. He was a reformer. He wanted a Remainer. He's a reformer today. He wanted to stay in the EU even after we had the vote. He doesn't believe in getting rid of the ECHR. I'll give him that. He was honest about that today. He said, no, we're not going to get rid of that. Well, how are you going to stop it then? How are you going to stop it, Stan? Because as you spoke, 600 people broke illegally into our country. 600. How many of them, perhaps, were potential Iranian terrorists, like the ones our secret services and the police apprehended the other day? No one's vetting these young men of fighting age. They're in hotels dispersed all around the country. I'm not being paranoid, but if you said wanted to cause or start a civil war, getting young men who are good at fighting from war-torn countries and then spreading them all over our country, it's not a bad idea, is it? Particularly as they're not even paying for it. It's being paid for by me and you. So he comes on and he does this speech today, which he doesn't believe. He's doing it. Well, I think he's doing it to try and silence or reform UK, Nigel Farage's team. But the problem is, when Nigel Farage says, put them in tents, or we'll just leave the ECHR, or we're going to take the boats back, people believe him. They believe that he believes that. So this weekend, when he wrote in the Mail on Sunday what his kind of manifesto was, they all tried to pick holes in it. The mainstream media, the lamestream media, and the established politicians. But what they don't understand is he doesn't have to do detail at this point. People just want something different. People are fed up of being ignored. Am I right or am I wrong? Can you give me your views, please, now? Graham Hatton, he says, I think we all know by now that anything old Keir says, it's just hot air. He has absolutely no intention of doing anything about the numbers that are flooding into this country. Meanwhile, the country stinks. I think that's true. And then Chopper says, Starmer has more waffle than a Camden coffee shop. I love that. I don't think he believed a word he was saying today. Him and his ilk think the rest of us are inferior to them and they can feed us any old rubbish. Well, that's what I'm saying, Chopper. And I'm going further than that. I'm saying it's endemic in mainstream politics. And then if you dare to be out of that mainstream, you're a far-right fascist. Never a far left. Have you noticed that? It's always that you're a far-right fascist. It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And what we've got at the moment is a tailspin not just Starmer and Labour, but the whole political class cannot cope with what Farage and his mob, so I shouldn't call them a mob, his party sorted out last week. It was an overwhelming victory, and they don't like it because he's coming for them and their lifestyles and their cozy little culture of, oh, yeah, we all know each other. Let's all go for dinner in North Islington. And Starmer personifies that. 1, human rights lawyer, tick. 2, basically doesn't believe people should be sent back. He's on the record. He wrote letters. The Jamaicans, remember the famous Jamaicans? They were all going to be sent back. And he stopped the plane. I think it was at Stansted. He was one of the signatories to a letter. These people were rapists, muggers, thieves, murderers. And we were trying to send them back to Jamaica. He stopped it. So when he says today he's going to cut migration, he's a liar. I don't think he's got any intention, or he's saying it at the moment because he hopes that will knock down reform for support. And let's face it, since the weekend, they've done quite well, the Labour press office. They've changed it from Farage is giving us a right hammering to, oh, he's an international statesman because of what happened in America. The trade deal, which I said earlier today, is a terrible deal for us. You got to congratulate Donald Trump. He stitched us up like a kipper. And today he sorted out China. But the press over the weekend was making it was Starmer's doing, that Starmer had got this wonderful deal, prompted, no doubt, by his very clever people in his press department. And then today, every single newspaper, and this is when I say to you, they're in bed with each other. If you ever disbelieve that or think Gaunt is just going over the top, just go and look at today's newspapers. Don't buy them. They're not worth buying. Just go and look at it online. They're front pages. Every front page of the national newspaper in Britain today talked about Starmer's plan to cut migration. He's going to cut it. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. Not one of them questioned, well, why isn't he talking about illegal? He's not talking about illegal because if he did illegal, he'd have to do it more or less straight away to prove he's doing it. The other one, the regular migration, in a way is easier to massage the figures. He also knows they're going down. But that's not the level that people are worried about. People are worried about the illegals, the potential, and I say potential, Iranian terrorists, for example, who have come in via our back door, Starmer. Because Starmer, you've not even protected the front door, but you've certainly left your back door wide open to be, to be exploited. And it's just ludicrous. So what people want, they want the boat stopped. That was Rishi's phrase, wasn't it? He failed. Yours was smash the gangs. Well, what have you done? Sweet jackal. And you can't keep blaming the Conservatives. You've been in power 10 months. And also, the opposition is not the Conservatives. The opposition now is reform. And everything you did today was like a recruiting sergeant for reform. I put up a little tweet while you were speaking. I was up at 5 this morning, so I've been looking after the dog here at my daughter's. He's getting a little bit better, thank you. But I was up at 5, so I was waiting for the news programs to start. Started watching them about 6 o'clock with my cup of char, and it was unbelievable. I was laughing at first, and then I was thinking, he doesn't really think he's going to get away with this, does he? But I think he's so delusional and so far up his own backside, which makes a change. I think he's lost. I think he's genuinely lost. I think he thinks he won a massive majority. I think he thinks he's popular. And people understand sometimes you've got to have medicine that doesn't taste nice. No, people hate you. I put up a tweet about it and saying, do you think this will work? And I couldn't believe what people were saying. Go and have a look at my Twitter line, my X line, Facebook, whatever you want to call it. Incredible. The vitriol. And again, I don't recognize this. We haven't had this before. We certainly haven't had it in this kind of way against one man, against the Prime Minister at this point in his career. The best thing he could do at the moment is to go. Let's take some more of your comments. Good evening, John. I agree. We're not stupid. We are fed up with everything going on. Well, I think after this show, you'll be even angrier. Because I'm just trying to join the dots. I find it incredible what he's attempting to get away with. And to shut down any dissent by calling you far right, a racist or a fascist. Ever since he lied about Southport, and then people rioted, which they shouldn't have done. But no, we've all been through this before. He's not apologized. Even though 2 days ago, top of the police said he's wrong. They weren't far-right organised. They were local people in each area that were rioting. Doesn't condone it. Of course not. But that's what was happening. Has he apologised? No. Has he said, let's review some of those cases to make sure some people haven't gone to prison when they shouldn't have done? Let's wind the clock back, because he loves going on about when he was director of public prosecutions. I wonder if one of those cases came over his desk and it was a left-wing cause, whether Starmer, chief prosecutor, I stand by my record, whether he would have taken it up against the British government. You know, like some leeching lawyers are at the moment are doing with our brave soldiers in Ireland. Now they're pensioners, yeah? They're having a go at them because of IRA, Sinn Féin. No one's asking what they did or how they caused the problem. It's just ludicrous. But Starmer would have been representing these people. Starmer, if he is a real lawyer and human rights person, he can't be satisfied that those people got justice. Because a real lawyer says, well, I don't like what they've done. I don't like who they are. I don't like what they're accused of. But I am going to represent them. Do you see where I'm coming from? Rick Medlock says populism is turning out to be correct. Understatement to the week, Rick. But you're right. They don't like it up them, do they? They told us we were wrong. Well, clearly we're right. The country is at breaking point. Doctors' appointments, the roads are packed, get your kids into schools. The whole fabric of Britain has changed. And what I hated most about Starmer, well, it's hard to decide what I hated most, but one of the other things he went on about today was he said this was all the legacy of 14 years of Conservative rule. Well, problem is, mate, I've been doing talk radio for 30 years now. And I remember the Polish plumbers. And I remember, in fact, I interviewed Tony Blair and Mandelson. I interviewed all of these people. When they decided that they were going to have free access, other countries, Italy in particular, I remember, said, no, we're going to put restrictions on how many East Europeans could come as they expanded the EU. It all goes back to Ukraine in a way, this sort of story. But anyway, not us. No, anyone could come. And that's where the whole cliche of the Polish plumber came from. And they worked hard. I've got a mate who runs a very successful building company in London. And he said he couldn't exist without that influx of Europeans. He says they work like mad and they're very loyal, etc., etc. So I'm not attacking individuals who came, but they definitely deflated wages of ordinary working class people in this country. And then we relied on all this cheap labour, haven't we? I remember when I first went to BBC London and working down there, and I went to get a sandwich, and there was a foreign guy in there. Hello, Gwen Wilson, 100%. I think that means 100% agrees with me. That's what I like to hear. So the guy asked me what kind of sandwich. I said, I have a beef sandwich. And I remember, I'm an oik from Coventry. He said, what kind of bread do you want? I said, what do you mean? Brown or white? He said, no. And he went through about 15 different types of bread. This is Marylebone High Street, right, that you could have. I hadn't heard of most of them. In fact, most of the sorts of bread I thought all played for Arsenal. Then he goes, what beef do you want? I said, well, roast beef. He said, well, salt beef, this beef, that beef. Anyway, great sandwich shop, lovely sandwich, reasonable price, right? But I made the point. It's okay getting all these people in so we can get a nice sandwich. And at that time, I was living in Northampton, and I had my Jag at that point. And it was lovely to be able to get my Jag cleaned for peanuts, and lovely to get your windows cleaned, and lovely to get a plumber, and da-da-da-da. And I said, but the only problem is, what if these people ever go home? Or why are we training in our people to do these jobs? And then we got them to be baristas, and then coffee became good, didn't it? Everyone walks down the street with a cup of coffee in their hand because some European is being paid peanuts to make it. Very skilled job being a barista, by the way. Anyway, that's what happened. And it was kind of, again, unsustainable. So when he says it was all the Tories who did this, he's wrong. Mandelson is on the record as saying we wanted to rub people's face in diversity. And then we had all this thing about, I remember interviewing one of those clowns. It might have been Gordon Brown. And I said, well, surely if you've got to come into the country, you've got to be able to speak English. No. And another bloke I did was the Lord Mayor, the elected mayor of where they built the Olympic Stadium. He was bragging to me there were 300 different languages spoken in his borough and in his schools. I said, is that something to boast about? I said, surely every kid should be speaking English, certainly within 6 or 7 months of being in the country, and so should their parents. Oh, I was a fascist. I remember I got a rollicking off BBC London for that. You can't say things like that. We're a diverse community here. We're trying to get... I said, well, you're not a diverse audience, are you? Let's be frank here. You're not. But I was just telling the truth. It isn't a good thing to brag about it. It's good to say we've got all these different cultures and they can speak other languages, but they've all got to speak English. I remember at the time people saying to me, I'm glad you said that, John, because I mentioned that to a teacher and I got a bollocking as well because they said I was being prejudiced against the foreign kids. I was just saying, no, I think they might be holding my kids back if the teacher's having to slowly explain everything to them. That's just, again, goes back to that word, common sense. So this idea that it was the Tories, and I'm not giving them a free ride, by the way. Boris opened the doors. Boris would have had everybody in Britain. And again, when I was on BBC London, I interviewed him, and the clown was suggesting at that time, before Sadiq Khan, don't forget this, Boris wanted an amnesty. Everybody who's already here, they can stay. I said to him, how's that going to be workable then? It's just madness because they don't live in our world. So I couldn't believe that Starmer was still blaming the Conservatives without any mention of Mandelson, without any mention of Blair and what they did, or Blair's wife, for God's sake. They're the ones who put the human rights there that he's now moaning about, that they're exploiting that system, which used to pay his wages as well, to stay in the country. They think we're stupid. We've got to remind them that we're not stupid. Anyway, Fraser Ford, they've shown their cards and they want to push us to supporting the war movement. But I don't want war, but civil disruption by crime, and we will have our own war. And in Britain, you're right, we'll have to keep our own streets and schools safe because of all these weirdos. I quite like that. Thank you, Fraser. Who's this? Andrew Brearley. He won't leave his mates behind at the ECHR. And to say it's not his fault for not being able to deport any of them, it's just mad. It is just mad what is going on. Absolutely crazy. And still they come. And what's he doing to stop it? If you're enjoying what I'm saying and you like my shows, I did a cracking one this morning as well, just because I was so angry about all this. Have a listen to that or a watch of that. You can either do it on the podcast when you're walking the dog, or feel free to join my channel, John Gaunt TV on YouTube, and it's free to subscribe. Then you'll know about all the times I'm broadcasting, and you'll be able to look back through the whole archive. If you think it's any good, feel free to give me a reward on YouTube and give me a gift. It's dead easy to do. Just press that little heart at the bottom of here, and you can donate anything from £1 upwards. Also, likewise, if you want to buy me a coffee, it's www.buymeacoffee.com. We've now changed it so you can actually buy a beer, but you get the idea. Worryingly, did I hear Vet Cooper say they're bringing in digital ID? Yes, you did. They're bringing in digital ID. I'm caught on this one, if I'm honest with you, Gwen. They're bringing it in for foreigners. So anybody who's here on a work visa, they will have to have a digital ID so that the police know who they are. But it's only a thin line, isn't it, between that and you having one as well. Gwen also says it's only 2 years since all the MPs in Labour signed a letter to stop that deportation. I presume you're talking about the one I was to Jamaica. Absolutely. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's just ridiculous what is going on. So, when they want to have these big programs, Newsnight or whatever, or Sly News, and they want to find out why are people turning to Nigel Farage, well, it's quite easy, isn't it? Because whatever you think of him, he speaks directly to people, not at them. And then he listens. And then he says the quiet part out loud. He does say, remember that old phrase? I think it was the Tories who did it. Are you thinking what we're thinking? Well, Farage is. And I just don't think it's racist to say, look, we can't have everybody in the world in this country. It isn't. So this disconnect between the public and the political elite, it's never been wider. It's never been wider. And they got a smack across the cheeks last week, but it's going to happen again. If there was a general election in the next 6 months, Farage would walk it. Why don't they start paying attention? Why don't they listen to us? Because if they don't, do you agree with me? They're in for another shock. And the next shock will be much bigger than Brexit. I just don't get it. I don't. Can you hear me now? I'm back. Can you hear me now? I do apologize. I pulled the wire out myself, getting excited. Just tell me if you can hear me now. Just on the comments, just say, yes, we got you back, Gaunty. Yeah, I don't want to be speaking to myself. Victor Meldrew says, yes, sounds back. Graham Hatton says, yay. I don't know where to go back to now because I haven't got a script. It's just off the top of my head. Craig Urquhart says, anyone else know sound? We got sound now. I do apologize. Where was I up to? I'm glad you stayed with me. Thank you very much indeed. No sound, Gaunty, says Steve. Thistle says, John, you're just waffling. You're on mute. See, they're trying to close me down. This is what they're trying to do. Victor Meldrew says, we didn't hear past Steve's message and John Gaunt TV. Okay, let me see where that was. That's where that is. Oh, there's loads of comments now. Hang on a minute. Enid Patricia, she said, there's 600 here. Well, yeah, I read that one out. Right, let's go here then. Graham Hatton, one of my fans, says, it's me. Is it me? Was the sound gone? Well, yeah, the sound went, but we got it back now, so I do apologize. I made that comment, and now the sound ain't working. Weird. Facebook mechanic. Yeah, it does sound like they're trying to censor me. I could make a big play about this and say, they're trying to close me down, but they're not. It's obviously my fault. I think I got a bit excited, and I pulled the wire out. I think dark forces are afoot, says Graham. They're tinkering with your broadcast because it's getting too close to the truth. Well, it's not getting too close. It's absolutely the truth, isn't it? Huh? I'm absolutely saying what other people are scared to say. Let's finish off then with some comments. Anybody else now want to talk to me and tell me what else? Oh, Craig Urquhart says it was so bad I nearly bought a new phone. Thank you. Very good indeed. Victor Meldrew says, got a new sub for it anyway. What does that mean? Did you? Have you sub for me? Thank you very much indeed. If you do want to subscribe, feel free. That is free, completely free on John Gaunt TV YouTube channel. I'm just trying to build the numbers. It's always going to be free. But if you want to contribute, you can either buy me a coffee. So you go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt, or you can just contribute anything from £1 upwards or £2 up anyway, just by doing it on Facebook, YouTube. I've lost my way now. I'm sorry about this. So let's just go back then to where we are. Starmer today lied like mad. The whole premise of what he did was a lie. He is not going to reduce migration. He isn't. He's certainly not going to stop the boats or smash the gangs, because that wasn't even on today's agenda. Interesting that what one of the people said on here, which was, is it true they're bringing in digital ID? I'd forgotten that. Yes, they are. Yvette Cooper talked about it today, but only for foreigners. Why? And how long before we all have to do it? I am scared stiff. You know, the Co-op this weekend, they got hacked, so you couldn't use your cards in those shops. I use cash most of the time, mainly because no bank would touch me. I'm worse than Farage. I've been debanked by everybody, me. But it's a worrying time, isn't it? But Starmer is not going to achieve any of those objectives. He doesn't believe in them. He was lying, absolutely lying. And he's got away with it. Just like he got away with what happened in Southport. Just like he got away with calling us all far-right thugs. No one's picked him up on it again. Just like he's got away with, we all want to help Ukraine. I don't. Victor Meldrew says, I did, my mate. Did listen to you in the past on the radio as well. Thank you. Fraser says, it's another great video. Thank you. Well, I'm finished. Thanks very much. I'm sorry about the technical fault. But tell me quick. When we get a phone-in part going, you'll be able to ring me up and tell me, I can't hear you. All right. But I've done 2 today. The one earlier is like the companion piece to this. Have a listen or a watch of that. You can listen on the podcast or you can watch it on replay. One lady said, oh, no, I missed this. I didn't know you're doing it. Well, if you subscribe to YouTube, to the John Gaunt channel, which is free, every time I plan one, it's normally an hour before, you get a notification saying John Gaunt's going to go live. And you don't just get it in YouTube. It comes to you on a sort of texty type thing. So that's the way to make sure you don't miss any. And then when you're there, if you want to donate, you can as well. So that'd be good. So that's 2 shows today. I've enjoyed both of them. And I'll be back tomorrow. I think there'll only be 1 tomorrow at 6:30. Unless something happens. We shall see. Maybe Starmer will resign. Oh, just on a separate note, Starmer's house has been attacked, or it looks like it. That was breaking news just before I came on. I just think that's terrible. I really do. And I hope the police are on top of it and the security services, because that's not what we want at all, is it? I shall be back with you. Alan Boland says, yes, unfortunately, the sound's back. Well, thank you, mate. But I think the joke's on you, because you're wasting your time listening to somebody you don't like. Anyway, I shall see you soon. If you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey, hey, hey. Don't forget to tell them you love them. See ya.